on the opposing end, Paul Chua, one of the most feared players, and for good reason. The titles that he's got, the list goes on, and the opportunity to add to it today, it would just be incredible, the cherry on top.
Talk about a final test to win your first regional championship. Paul Chua is a formidable opponent in every sense of the word. 6-time regional champion, looking to make it a 7th. I think there's only one person that's ever done that, and that is Wolf. So being up in that level, it's just really impressive from Paul, and he's shown it so far this weekend.
And will history repeat itself here in Toronto? Last year, it was Wolf to claim his historic 10th win, and now Paul's sitting here in the finals going for the 7th. Toronto, we always talk about a competition that delivers. Will it today? Regardless, with this David versus Goliath, Cary has been putting on a run and masterclass in these matches with a really strong team. We've gotten to see the work that Roaring Moon has put in this format. This is a winning team as well. It won in the seniors division, and talking about all of these pieces, a lot of offense.
That Terrifier Urshifu has put in so much work for him. It's looked so powerful with that Mystic Water Surging Strikes, but that added defense of the fire typing could come in handy against Paul as well with that very powerful Ogerpon Hearthflame Mask. Of course, the Landorus Incarnate form, one of the best Pokemon you can use when going up against a Raging Bolt, because it does have that super effective Earth Power and Sandsear Storm. That might be a really important piece for Cary to try and break through that Calm Mind.
Looking at pieces like the Roaring Moon too to try and slow down pieces from Paul's team that would like to get setting up, something like that Ogerpon, Breaking Swipe to kind of drop that, and a Tailwind to make sure these offensive Pokemon on your team are just that little bit faster. On the opposing end though, we've talked a lot about Paul's balanced team, and we've really gotten to see it grind down and wear out his opponents throughout the day. Because sure, Cary does have a lot of damage, but Paul has a lot of great ways to kind of stop it in its tracks.
He really does. Paul is looking to make these games last as long as possible. I think if Paul's able to elongate these games, make sure that Cary can't make too much headway, prevent a lot of damage with these Intimidates, with these Calm Minds, with the recovery from grassy terrain, he's got a really good shot at being able to withstand the offense that Cary has at his disposal.
The amount of different setup options too that Paul has, it's really cool to see, because you kind of can go on a little bit more of the offensive with the Urshifu, or even right away with an Ivy Cudgel from the Ogerpon, or you can take an advantage of an opponent that maybe tries to play a little bit more passively to try and wait something out. And if you can get a Swords Dance or a Calm Mind underway with these Pokemon, you can start to run away with the game. Two trainers that have really showed up here in the competition, and now only one more set to determine who is about to be our next regional champion. Hopping into the game, Urshifu and the Mungus on the side of Cary, going up against a really aggressive lead in this Fluttermane and Ogerpon for Paul.
Really aggressive lead from Paul, but two Pokemon in Cary's side that have the ability to Terastallize into some very beneficial types right here. The Terrifier Urshifu especially will make it resist every single damaging attack that is available to Paul on this turn. Of course, a Mungus with the Terra Water could also be very useful to not take super effective damage from Ivy Cudgel and potentially be able to get off a Spore. But seeing that Incineroar in the back for Cary, also a fantastic swap here to start getting some Intimidates down.
It's kind of a little bit of a pick your poison as well, because a lot of these terastallizations for Cary can be really pivotal in this match, and is what it's going to be most beneficial in this moment. And as determined, Mungus has other ways to stay safe. You want to make sure that Urshifu can go ahead and get the most attacks out as possible and not take a super effective hit from this Fluttermane. The Fire Terastallization, a great way to do that. Mungus protect, so any sort of Ivy Cudgel is going to just completely be stopped in its tracks. Moonblast the first hit, but look how well this Urshifu is going to take that, and any sort of follow-up, not even directed into that slot, instead into the Amoonguss. So very little damage done from Paul's side of the board, and in return, Cary's doing a lot. Going into this, though, it's going to be close if it's going to be for 3. I think it will, and sure enough, Ogerpon goes down on the very first turn of the match.
Huge start for Cary. Getting rid of that Fire-type Ogerpon means that Amoonguss is so much safer for the rest of this match. Incineroar is still left, but isn't necessarily as big of an offensive powerhouse as the Hearthflame Ogerpon. It looks so close that Surging Strikes may have just missed the KO on another day, but Cary's Urshifu is ready to take a huge turn 1 in this finals.
And that Hearthflame Ogerpon being gone is so nice. As you called out, the Amoonguss is in such a better spot, and with that Terastallization for the Urshifu, you'd even fare against, pretty good against the Rillaboom. The one thing that this Rillaboom does have is a ground type attack. So regardless if it was the Urshifu or the Incineroar, wouldn't be appreciated, but Incineroar coming in, this will get the attack drop over on the opposing end. Thunder Wave, though, we've seen Paul use this throughout the day to not just slow down the opponent, but to completely stop them in their tracks. So now an opportunity for Mungus to not be able to maybe do anything down the line. It's going to be whether it can break through. That is the question. This time it will. Offensive Mungus. Sludge Bomb to bring Rillaboom down to half.
Great Sludge Bomb there. Getting Rillaboom and as much damage into Rillaboom as possible is going to be crucial for Cary here. One of the very few things that can comfortably take his Surging Strikes. And of course, not getting baited by a possible Terra Grass on the Flutter Mane with a Spore. Getting that damage out, very important to keep this momentum going forward.
Just slowly but surely trying to chip away at this Incineroar, though. Flutter Mane with the Protect. Rillaboom has been taking damage after damage, though, with that Rocky Helmet. And of course, there is always just the super effective fire move from the Incineroar. So a second KO now in Cary's favor. Only 2 Pokemon left for Paul. This Flutter Mane that hasn't gotten to do too much in the match, but Amoonguss is paralyzed on this turn, so that is going to be a start.
Hey, I mean, if you got to be fully paralyzed on any turn, it may as well be the turn where the Flutter Mane protected itself already. In 2-3 turns, Paul already down 2 Pokemon, and now it's just the Raging Bolt and the Flutter Mane. What can take down this Amoonguss? You need a few Calm Minds, maybe some Icy Winds to help out, but Amoonguss is looking so good, especially when that Hearthflame Ogerpon went down. Knowing Paul's remaining Pokemon, Amoonguss is going to be a big hill to climb.
And I mean, the Amoonguss now, and even information that we have is the Lander is still in the bag. The other of these Pokemon from Paul are quite safe, but Flutter Mane going to try at least to make it through right now and not get Spored or Rage Powdered away. And Incineroar, having taken so much damage previously from the Rillaboom, can go down to a Moonblast. So Paul trying to equalize the score, and a Calm Mind from the Raging Bolt as well. If you're looking at a Raging Bolt that really has like a lot of upwards momentum, getting a special defense and a special attack boost is a great way to start, but Spore, Flutter Mane was never the target. Instead, Raging Bolt gets the boost and instantly gets put to sleep.
Crucial Spore there for Cary. Raging Bolt going to sleep means that it isn't threatening any damage next turn. Urshifu can come in, safely go for an attack into this Flutter Mane. Because it terrestrialized into the Grass type already, close combat will be neutral. If this Urshifu breaks through Paralysis, this could be a huge KO.
So many times throughout the day, we've seen Pokemon stopped in their tracks with the Paralysis. Raging Bolt, of course, this is the first mandatory turn of sleep, but can the Pokemon break through? They will! Close combat, critical hit into the Flutter Mane. One Pokemon left for Paul, and it's just a sleeping Raging Bolt. Cary has had all of the momentum in this Game 1.
Explosive Game 1 for Cary Diortona here, really wanting to take home this first game, get himself so much closer to winning that first regional championship. Sludge Bomb will come through into the Raging Bolt, get a little bit of chip damage while this Raging Bolt is still asleep. It is now able to wake up on any given turn, but once this grassy terrain expires, the recovery will be just limited to that leftovers. And when you're facing down 3 Pokemon, I think we saw that Landorus in the back for Cary. It's going to be really tough for Paul to claw the back into this game.
And Cary can just play this so safe from here on out. You knowing that there's a chance for the Raging Bolt to wake up, still just target a Spore into it just in case. Sure, you're not doing the most amount of damage with this close combat, but you just have so much momentum going on forward. You're covered. Even if the Raging Bolt wakes up next turn, you put it right back to sleep. It's still going to be taking a big hit from the Urshifu, and there is still that Landorus in the back. I mean, at this point, the Raging Bolt, there's just nothing it can do.
Not to mention the Amoonguss just going straight for these Spores. Really smart here for Cary, because as soon as Raging Bolt wakes up, it will just go right back to sleep as long as Amoonguss doesn't get fully paralyzed. Dragon Pulse comes out at +1 special attack, does a good chunk of damage to the Amoonguss, but Citrus Berry is there to keep it healthy.
As well at this point, the Amoonguss, there's always opportunity for it not to hit, but still, oh, we got to break, okay. Urshifu gets paralyzed, so that is going to be no damage. A second paralysis though, so Raging Bolt, it just gets away with a lot of damage, and those Thunder Waves coming up huge.
Well, I mean, step 1, right? If you're Paul,
Yeah.
that's exactly what you need. I think you got to come out of this exchange with the Urshifu and Amoonguss with Raging Bolt at a pretty high HP count if you want it to be able to survive an Earth Power.
I mean, you're not going to be taking damage from the Urshifu, that's for sure. The +1 Dragon Pulse, enough to take it down. And the Amoonguss still has to act. It was paralyzed last turn, but it will get the Spore. Landorus on the field next will be able to come in safely and hopefully be able to chip away the last little bit of the Raging Bolt.
It will guaranteed have 2 turns to fire off Earth Powers into this Raging Bolt. The Raging Bolt has to stay asleep on this coming turn, and even if it wakes up on the next turn, Landorus is immune to that Thunderclap. Cary's done a very good job managing the threat level of this Calm Mind Raging Bolt with a team that often can struggle into it.
So much momentum from the get-go in that match and carrying it through to the very first victory. Cary is 1 game away from being a regional champion. And what a match that was. We had talked about all the ways that Paul can reduce that damage to slow the game down, and Cary didn't care about that at all. You just powered through Paul's entire team.
That lead especially was really good for Cary. This Terrifier Urshifu is so strong into the Hearthflame Ogerpon and the Flutter Mane. Paul perhaps thinking he might have been able to survive that Surging Strikes, but the Terrifier kept that Urshifu so safe, and as soon as the Hearthflame Ogerpon went down, that was the entirety of Paul's threatening damage into Amoonguss. Amoonguss was able to stick around, fire off some Sludge Bombs for support, and crucially put that Raging Bolt to sleep so Cary could deal with it.
And something we talked about at the beginning of the match was where Cary was going to use the Terastallization. It was so well pinpointed onto the Urshifu. On the opposing end, the Terra Grass from Paul onto that Flutter Mane didn't really get to do anything, and that's a Terastallization in that endgame with that Raging Bolt. Maybe could have paid off quite a bit more to at least get past 1 turn, make it a mind game, try and go for something. It would have been close. It's not very likely, but still an opportunity here. But where will Paul change things up? He has been a 6-time regional champion for a reason. Heading into game number 2, Can Cary close this out? We'll have to see, but the leads.
Fantastic lead for Cary once again. This Landorus immediately threatening huge damage into both the Incineroar and the Raging Bolt. Incineroar is there for a fake out. You can only stop 1 of a ground type attack, and Spore. Will this Landorus be able to attack this turn, or will the Amoonguss get to put something to sleep?
And that's the scary part of it, because neither option seems too good within this match. And the amount of offensive pressure this Landorus can have, I don't know. Paul's going to stop neither of them, though, with this Incineroar. Switching out instead and onto the field, Rillaboom. So at least if it is a ground-type attack, the Rillaboom will be able to take the hit, or a potential Spore, and Raging Bolt will get to protect. So great little pivot, but you still find yourself in a situation where Raging Bolt doesn't switch. The next turn, that could still be a lot of damage or that Spore.
That's so true. The Sansir Storm will connect with the Rillaboom. Does a little bit of damage here. Amoonguss gets the chance to move, but the Spore into the protecting Raging Bolt will do nothing. Nice safe switch from Paul there. This Rillaboom able to get on the field, reestablish your fake out pressure if Cary did decide to protect either of his Pokemon. But more importantly, you now have a Pokemon that will resist that Sansir Storm. If you Terastallize your Raging Bolt like it looks like Paul is doing, you've no longer any Pokemon that are weak to ground.
You're not weak to ground, but a lot of these not very effective hits that you would like the Raging Bolt to keep is now kind of gone, right? So a little bit of a trade there. Fake out into the Amoonguss, so no Spore, but Sludge Bomb instead. The call on the Terastallization, and so much damage done. Sure, the Raging Bolt is boosted up now for next turn with this Calm Mind, but you don't want your Raging Bolt to be down to that little health at the beginning of the match.
Oh, that's such a good play from Cary. That covers both fake out targets so well. If the Rillaboom fakes out the Landorus, the Raging Bolt probably doesn't Terastallize, but you're not attacking with Landorus, so who cares? If the Rillaboom fakes out the Amoonguss, you kind of have to Terastallize that Raging Bolt unless you want it to get knocked out by Earth Power, and Sludge Bombing so early on makes this Raging Bolt that is now at +1 special defense so much easier to take down. What a huge play by Cary to regain this momentum at the start of the second game.
And with Terastallization available for Cary in this match, make sure that, yeah, you're not going to be hit by something super effective here, or no powerful tentacles to try and take you down. Steel type here on to the Landorus. Protect, though, from the Raging Bolt. When you have the set that can be getting so much health between turns and you're already so low, this makes a lot of sense. So at least you'll get some recovery. Landorus doesn't find its mark. Try and claw back a little bit more within this. Woodhammer, though, into the Steel-type Landorus is just not that much at all.
Sludge Bomb will hit the protecting Raging Bolt, and of course the Spore into the Rillaboom, trying to catch a swap into something like the Incineroar. Still a good play from Cary, though. I like that Terra Steel on Landorus a lot. I don't think there's no world in which the Raging Bolt was going to Thunderclap that slot this turn, and now you still have Amoonguss there to redirect a possible Thunderclap, while your Landorus hopefully picks up the knockout on this Raging Bolt. It did a lot of damage with that first Sludge Bomb, but that recovery is now starting to add up on top of that special defense boost.
Landorus, though, you know, Paul can switch it up knowing that the Terastallization's been out. seems so safe to just switch here, especially to limiting the amount of damage this Rillaboom can do is really, really nice. You get that Intimidate, you get a little bit of a pivot, and if this Raging Bolt sticks around, it's going to be put to sleep sooner rather than later. Grassy Glide does nothing. More damage into the Rillaboom, if anything, and it was the attempt at the double priority into the slot. Raging Bolt, again, does nothing, and Spore would put it right to sleep.
Another great turn from Cary. That Landorus probably would have been knocked out by that Grassy Glide and Thunderclap combination if Amoonguss did not Rage Powder. Instead, switching in this Incineroar, a great defensive swap into this Rillaboom, and of course, taking no damage on the swap other than that Grassy Glide. More importantly, though, the Raging Bolt being put to sleep, it will have to take a turn of sleep on this turn. Parting Shot can remove that Calm Mind special attack boost.
High horsepower, -1 Rillaboom, essentially nothing done into this Incineroar in the first mandatory turn to sleep from the Raging Bolt. Carries so much momentum now, and using this just slow down what this Raging Bolt can do once it does wake up. Parting Shot, you can pivot back into a Pokemon to try and deal the damage, and of course, once the Raging Bolt wakes up, it no longer has that special attack boost. Landorus will be the one of choice. You're not as threatened now by this Pokemon with the Rillaboom taking that attack drop, and again, just kind of pin the slaughter any swaps.
Again, trying to call a switch with that Spore there. I think that's a risk you're willing to take if you're Cary. If the Rillaboom swaps out, you get a lot of mileage out of that Spore. If it stays on the field, this Rillaboom isn't doing a whole lot on this coming turn. Raging Bolt recovery is starting to add up. The grassy terrain does finally end, so now it is just the leftovers. But I don't know if one Sludge Bomb will be enough to KO it from the Landorus. Perhaps if you double it up with Amoonguss, a double Sludge Bomb can do the trick here?
It does have that special defense boost, so it's not going to be taken down by just the one hit. High horsepower into the Steel type, but the Intimidate has dropped so much. It is going to be a wake up from the Raging Bolt. Dragon Pulse isn't enough into the Landorus. No! 2 HP survival. Sludge Bomb now. The Raging Bolt was so low, enough to take it down.
Oh, that's a huge survival from the Landorus here. Now that it is at 2 HP still and Grassy Terrain has ended, the only priority attack that Paul has is gone. The Thunderclap is no longer threatening a KO before it can attack. If Rillaboom wants to Grassy Glide, it will have to swap out and come back in to reset that Grassy Terrain. The Hearthflame Ogerpon does now hit the field, but there's an Amoonguss in the back for Cary that is ready to come in and mitigate that damage immediately.
Yeah, you try and target down this Landorus to try and get rid of this Pokemon that's caused you so much struggles, and Incineroar will soak up that hit so well. So great switch here, and the Intimidate. This Rillaboom's now at -2, and the Ogerpon, something you really need to deal damage on Paul's end, at -1. A switch out from the Rillaboom, though, since you do want it to come back in and actually deal damage into this Incineroar, and something where you can have a little bit more flexibility onto this next turn.
Yes, Amoonguss is ready to go for something like a Spore or a Sludge Bomb here. Swords Dance, though, from the Hearthflame Ogerpon, starting to become an even bigger threat at +1 attack. Sludge Bomb comes out from Amoonguss, though. That is a huge chunk of damage, and it gets the poison!
That is so much damage, and this Ogerpon, the Pokemon Paul's trying to set up, is now on a timer, going to be taking this damage turn after turn. In this match, Cary from the get-go has been putting so much pressure on, and those little moments to try and just shut down Paul as much as possible.
More importantly, this Ogerpon now is very much in range of Aqua Jet. Even if Rillaboom comes back on the field and gets that Grassy Terrain healing going, the damage from Poison is more than the damage you recover from Grassy Terrain. So this Ogerpon is now on a timer. This timer might get even shorter thanks to this Urshifu.
Yeah, you try and target a hit into the one slot. The Urshifu might not take much. Fake Out is just going to be that little bit of chip. I think, Cudgel, you would love for that to take down a full HP Amoonguss, but instead it's just a 2 HP Landorus. You get to take down a Pokemon, but again, you are on a timer, and you have a lot of momentum to make up with this Ogerpon.
It's going to be so tough for Paul to close this out. This Ogerpon will be knocked out by one more turn of Poison unless this Grassy Terrain hits the field, and that would buy it one extra turn. Incineroar does hit the field. The Intimidate is reactivated. Now Ogerpon is back down to neutral attack, I believe, and the Incineroar on Paul's side even lower. Aqua Jet threatens a KO into Ogerpon, but of course you have Fake Out to cover that Ogerpon as well, and you can just go straight for Surging Strikes into Incineroar.
Yeah, the Incineroar, it's getting out of there, and it's going to be Rillaboom to soak up that Surging Strikes instead. But with the priority that Paul has, that's against Paul in this very low health Ogerpon, it's not even going to get that final attack in. A second Pokemon down for Paul. That gold is in sight now for Cary. Such a momentous lead here. Sure, Rillaboom will take the hit, but again, what else can Paul do within this match?
I don't know, Sarah. This is going to be really tough for Paul. Cary's done such a good job managing these offensive threats. The Raging Bolt and the Hearthflame Ogerpon both knocked out. All that Paul has left is this Rillaboom and Incineroar, the two Fake Out Bros that are so popular in this regulation, but Cary has managed them so well. Cary still has a third Pokemon as well. You can swap out your Incineroar to get one more Intimidate. You can swap out your Urshifu for a little bit more safety on this turn. So many options available to Cary that Paul just doesn't have anymore.
And sure, there is the active Fake Out on the board, but with just Protect, you can play this so safe to not risk any pieces, and that is it! David takes down Goliath. Cary, Diartona becomes your Toronto Regional Champion. A strong, a dominant two-game set to claim the title for himself. What a stacked event. He has been electric throughout the season. He has been on fire throughout this tournament. And now becoming your champion to prove it all worth it. What an incredible run.